Today, we're going to go over the Jozef Chen vs Elijah Dorsey match at WNO 24. And we're going to skip the first minute so we can get right to the action. Elijah initially tries to go for the single leg, which turns to an underhook on his left side, and Jozef responds by getting his own underhook on his left side. And as Elijah is pushing into Jozef, Jozef pulls off a beautifully timed Ouchigari. Now let's find out why that looks so effortless. While both athletes have over-under grips on each other, it's very common to drive into your underhook because you could do wrestling throw-bys, you can get to the back, there's a lot of options with the underhook. And based off the posture of both athletes, Jozef's underhook is not nearly as strong as Elijah's underhook at this point, so it's pretty safe to say that Elijah is going to try to use that advantage by driving with his right foot and stepping forward with his left foot so he can work on getting an even stronger underhook. Jozef already knows that the foot is going to come forward, which makes it very easy for him to predict where he needs to trip his leg, and that leads to a very smooth Ouchigari. At this point of the match, there's over 2 minutes of Jozef being stuck in Elijah's close guard, and we're not going to go through every single detail, but there are 2 things that I want to highlight. The first thing I want to note is that while Elijah has a very active close guard, Jozef is being very patient and making sure that he sticks to the basics by getting his hands under the armpits. And the only thing he's really focused on is making sure that he can stand up. When Jozef is able to stand up, Elijah does a great job of threatening sweeps by attacking the ankles. And when that does happen, Jozef makes sure that he's able to pull out one of his legs so he can at least maintain top position and avoid getting swept. Now at the 11:20 mark, we see that Jozef tries to stand again, and Elijah is able to get this underhook underneath Jozef's right leg. When Jozef does decide to stand up, Elijah tries to enter into K-guard. Jozef does a really good job with defending the K-guard, but he does end up back in Elijah's close guard. Now during that very fast transition, there were a lot of small details that we need to go over. Here's a short clip of what a lot of bottom players are trying to achieve when they enter K-guard.
As I go into any kind of basic armbar and my partner wants to posture up, that gives me so much space to enter the K-guard, but also his weight is going to be away, which means his leg is light. Now something that I really like to do that we did a lot on the DVD is reaping over here, catching the far side heel, flipping it over, and either controlling my opponent's back leg so he cannot backstep, or if he backsteps, switching over, pushing, and getting inside heel hook entries here.
Notice how the bottom player wants the top player to be leaning forward after he reaps the leg. Jozef defends against the K-guard by quickly bringing his weight back, and he has a priority of controlling Elijah's left foot, so Elijah isn't able to get a good bite with his legs. Jozef then makes sure that his right arm is in inside position while he's still leaning back. And at this point, it looks like Jozef is in good position to get into side control. Elijah does a good job of getting to his side, trying to re-establish his guard, and Jozef goes for this body lock pass with his hips very far away from Elijah because he wants to run around Elijah's legs. This is very similar to what Nicky Rod did against Max Jimenez, and he was able to attack the back from there. But in this match, Elijah was able to get his underhook on his left side, and he was quicker to get his knee up to stop Jozef's hip, and that allows him to get back into close guard. This time around, Jozef doesn't stay in the open guard for too long, and he gets to his feet very quickly. Elijah uses that opportunity to perform a double ankle sweep, but you'll notice that he's not able to complete it. And the reason for this is because Jozef is holding on to both of his ankles and elevating them at the same time. A key component is being able to use the momentum of your opponent going down and using that to get yourself up. And to finish it, you need your legs to stay on the floor. But if the person's feet are elevated, there's no leverage to start getting on top. And that small detail allows Jozef to stay in top position from here. Jozef enters into half guard, and now we're going to get into some very technical and advanced stuff from here. I'm going to do my best to break it down, but I'm not going to lie, it gets kind of complicated from here. Jozef starts by pummeling his right arm to fight for inside position and threaten the underhook on Elijah's left side. And with the way that Jozef's right leg is posted here, Elijah decides to transfer from the knee shield to a butterfly hook. And when he tries to extend the butterfly hook, Jozef doesn't move at all because he has that post on his left hand. So Elijah tries to back away to recover his open guard, and naturally he wants to get the underhook on his left side because it has a lot of benefits. But Jozef is okay giving up that underhook as long as he is allowed to get his underhook on his left side. And even though he lands in Elijah's butterfly guard, as long as he's flat on his back, right now there's no threat of the butterfly sweep. Because if you want to finish the butterfly sweep, you need to be on your side and on your shoulder.
We never fall back directly onto our back for sumigashi. That's a death sentence and makes the move very ineffective. We always want to make sure for classic sumigashis that we fall onto our side, onto one shoulder. And we get a hold of our training partner's belt. As we lock up, look how first and foremost we commit to a shoulder. This action of committing to a shoulder, look what it does to Mateus's base. Immediately puts him into a defensive situation, head down, tail up. Okay, so that's always our first big commitment. Look what happens if Mateus doesn't put out his leg for support. Just the action of falling onto my shoulder already puts him in a very, very sweepable position.
And now we are getting into Jozef's specialty, which is tripod passing. Jozef uses the underhook and the head on the other side of Elijah's head to balance and stabilize himself when Elijah tries to go for a butterfly sweep. He also has his hips very high, which is going to allow him to start getting past the legs, which is the reason why we call it a tripod pass. So Jozef's first objective is pushing down Elijah's left knee down, and he's able to clear that knee and get his hip past one of the butterfly guards. And you'll notice for the bottom player that it's a dilemma because they need to keep their butterfly hooks in to prevent the mount position, but also they need to extend their legs if they want to try to get Jozef off of them. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. Jozef tries to use his tripod position to bring his left leg over to get into side control, but Elijah is able to recover back into half guard. And to start initiating the tripod pass again, Jozef switches from the overhook to the underhook on his right side. This is very unconventional because most people in this position are trying to get a head and arm grip. But the near side underhook and half guard is not as common. This time around, Jozef was working the tripod pass with double underhooks, and you can see that Elijah is really trying to make space. But because his back is flat against the floor, it's very hard for him to get anything going from here. In this frame here, Jozef brings his knees on the outside and does a very interesting outside knee cut pass. And in this frame, he has two options from here. He can go either into side control on his left side, or if he's comfortable enough, he can go straight into mount, which is what he does in this position. Overall, just really interesting passing style from Jozef. And I'm sure this takes a lot of practice. As you can probably imagine, trying this in the beginning, you're probably going to get swept a lot from the butterfly sweeps. When Jozef establishes mount, Elijah tries to do an elbow knee escape, and he is able to defend back into 3/4 guard, but Jozef is able to use that 3/4 guard to his advantage. He brings his knee to Elijah's head, he sits his butt down, and he's able to sit back with an over-under grip and transitions into the back. And as they're rolling, he's able to trap Elijah's left arm with a hook. From here, Elijah is already in a huge disadvantage because one of his arms is trapped. Jozef has his other arm on Elijah's right wrist, and he's able to extend that. So now Elijah doesn't have any sort of defenses against the back. Jozef starts sinking in the rear naked choke, wiggling his fingers so he's able to climb higher and higher. Jozef brings his arm around Elijah's arm, and instead of going straight for the choke, he uses that to continue blocking Elijah's right arm from defending. And when the rear naked choke is fully synced in, that's when he lets go, finishes the squeeze, and he's able to get the tap from there. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown, and I will see you in the next video.